Hi everybody, welcome back. Oh, I had to put the Sport Quattro in there just to, give me some incentive, Just like, oh look, that's why I keep the front end on this thing, so I can look at it going, all right, let's go to the back and do it, Last video, did the rotisserie, so we gotta get this thing ready to put on a rotisserie. Big story with this, you got 5 inches of snow already accumulated on the ground, and it's coming down, and that thing's not gonna get sandblasted. So I'm gonna probably weld the panels in and grind it and weld it and do that. I have this sandblaster come down, take a look at it, gave me an estimate, and it's a whole process, but I'll go into that if I use that, and I'll show you, what other things that I'm gonna be doing. But that's beside the point. We'll get on to this. Let's go to the back. Well, let's go to the side view of this, and I'll show you which, my thought process on how I'm going to get this thing actually ready for a rotisserie and pretty much a final fit up. It'll never really be final until right before paint because you're always going to see something, especially in a car you've never built before. And I've never built this. I'm just learning as we go. And you're learning with me. And if you see a better way to do it, awesome. It's like everything, a step-by-step process. Someone, how can I put this? Someone made a automatic firearm, and someone looked at that process. So that's kind of cool, but I can make it better. And that's how we get technology. It's everybody's building upon everybody else. So hopefully you will build upon my mistakes or what I do, what I think is the best approach, and hopefully you'll find a better approach. But that's it. I just want to give you the idea of what I did so you don't either try it or don't try it. So let's go to the side. Let's figure out what we're doing here. We're at the back of the car. In order to fit the rotisserie, we have to bolt it on here. We're going to bolt it through the bumper mounts, basically, or the crash protection for the back. What it is, it was this bumper that we drilled holes, fit in there, no problem. It's not perfectly fit, but what we got to do is, in order to weld this thing to the chassis so we can put the rotisserie on it, we have to fit the bumper. That's the place where it's got to be. So we have to fit the quarters. We have to fit this. And let me go to the side. Let me show you, why we're putting this thing on the lift in order to fit everything else so we can put it on the rotisserie. We're at the side of the car. We have to make the rear bumper fit. And in order for us to put it on the rotisserie. In order to make the rear bumper fit, we need the quarters to be pretty much exact. That's kind of the big deal thing. How do I make the quarters exact? Well, we have to make sure the doors are on and it all lines up. That is, I want the doors in their exact position on how they're going to close, lock position, everything. That way, when it's all said and done, those doors are going to be the focal point of how we're going to align the rear quarters, the rocker, and the front fenders. And I want to do all of that. I have a feeling it's not going to happen in this episode, but the first thing we have to do in order to get the doors on is we have to pull the jig from the transmission tunnel. Well, I don't want to remove that jig until the transmission tunnel is set. So, in order to set that, remember with the drive shaft, the bearing was basically destroyed. So I bought an El Cheapo Chinesian bearing for my mock-up. I'm going to put that in there, and we're going to build the mounts around it to help with the stability of the transmission tunnel. At least that's what my theory is. And that way, we can get that set up and get the transmission tunnel probably not fully welded in, but really just good tacks, good stitch weld in. That way, we can start building from there. That's kind of a big thing with me. If I can start building from there, and we can remove the jig, put the doors on it, bring it back in. It'll be really easy to move around on the dolly without the drivetrain in it, And then we have to work, and fit and align everything perfect. And we're probably gonna do the front. There's a way I want to tie it in, but there's a certain way I want to tie it in. I don't really know. That might be down the road. I'm not really sure, but depends on how much video time is depending on what I'm going to show this episode. I always say it's going to be low, but it always turns out to be a wicked a lot of time. So let's throw this onto the lift and let's see what we can do. There she is. Get to work on the drive shaft. This is how I generally do the drive shafts. If you normally do a drive shaft, especially in an American car, what you do is you press out the U-joint, and then you can get right at this bolt, push it out, and bang, boom. What I just do is, you have enough room in here with a snap-on wrench, you know, because it's a relatively thin wall, that you can take out the bolt and just tap it all out. Remember, this yoke relationship to this shaft has to be exact, so you must mark it, you know, prior to you pulling this stuff apart. Seeing how this drive shaft has to be balanced because I cut it, and I don't know the relationship of this to this. This weight will not be the correct one. You know, it's the whole deal here is that this thing is going to be rebalanced. So I'm not going to mark it, but you got to do that. So let me go grab a wrench and a hammer, and so I can tap this thing out. One thing you have to do is you're going to have to work the yoke off and then turn the bolt further out, because I can't really get it with my fingers yet. There it is. Here we have the old bearing. Take a look. Kind of rough on the inside. You don't see it, but that's just what it is. And it's collapsed down to the bottom part. I don't know if it was manufactured supposed to be that way or not. I didn't think so, but it could be. To me, I would rather have something that's concentric or in the middle. Just like this. This is right in the middle. And what I'm going to do is put it on like that, just so this part of the drive shaft does not hit the lip, because this thing is turning on the bearing surface, not on the bearing housing. If I go like this, put it on, I think there's more of a possibility of this rubber lip contacting this yoke. So I am going to invert it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to take it back off. But what we have to do now is clean up the bearing surface. We'll lube it up here in just a second. I want to get all the old rust off. Most people say don't use that or use Loctite. I just use oil because this might come apart again. Old piece of roll cage tubing. You want it on here. You only want to touch or compress on the bearing on the inner race, not on the outer race. So just make sure it's there and just tap it in. There. Yep, not doing it. So you got to put the bigger side on the inside. That way, when this thing goes on, a little bit of lube on that. Now I got to push this all. Now I got to screw this in while putting it all in. So let me just do that. There's our mount. Let's go put it on the Sport so we can figure out where we're going to make the mounts to mount this to the chassis. I have the drive shaft back in with, you know, two bolts. It's just sitting in there pretty much. I just needed to get it in relationship with where we're going to have to build the mounts. What you got to do is, seeing how this is all a custom build, you have to get the least amount of deviation or angle on each CV joint and the U joint. So what I'm doing, I'm looking at the distance. That's the clamp for the CV bolt right here. The distance all the way around here on this CV joint on the back of the drive shaft. Then I'm looking over here. Now, if you can see the CV joint, we have to make sure this is actually flush to the hub. And it's not, I mean, it's already pushing on the hub, and it may be a little bit down, but if you push it like this, you can see it's pretty much equal all the way around. So there's no real deviation in the CV joint. The least amount of deviation, the better. That's the main thing. We don't want that. So let me go show you what I'm going to use for the material to make the mounts for this drive shaft. This is what we're going to use for the mounts. And yes, it is the Eurovan seat base, the seat that keeps on giving. So, hey, at least it's German materials. Gotta give me that. So, yeah, this is kind of, the reason I was looking at this, using this base is because of this curve right here, because I can use two curves on both sides. It looks like it should fit in the transmission tunnel, then weld them together and box it in. There's some other compound curves that come down, but you know, we'll get to that when we get to that. What I was going to use for the main mounts, as you know, on top of the support structure, is this right here. These base mount, or this side mount, or whatever you want to call it, has a threaded insert, which is, it looks like an 8x125. Go right in. I'll just trim it all out, put it in there, weld it up, and build everything upon that. And that will give me the structure. So let me cut this thing up, and then we're going to go over there and look at where we're going to put it on in for the drive shaft. Well, we already ran into my first good intentions, and it's not going to work. Oh well. What I did is I took a tap. I wanted to find out to make sure this bolt wasn't anything really strange. And what it is, this is a 10x1.5 that goes in here. Standard, you know, that's what just the Germans generally use, you know, for this size. What I did do is I cleaned up all the threads. Then I went over to the mount. And the mount is too narrow for 10 millimeter threaded or 10 millimeter wide bolt. What I got to do here, this is an 8 millimeter wide bolt, an 8x125. I'm just going to cut this thing up and use this. It'll slide on the mount, no problem. I just won't have all, you know, this extra structure. I'll use this structure and hopefully that'll work. If not, I'll build off the sides and make it work, you know. This is one thing you got to do before you start cutting, is just checking to make sure the stuff will work. So let me go grab this and grab the grind. Well, let me go grab the grinder and my goggles, and we'll cut this up. Here we have the drive shaft. That's pretty much where it's going to be. It's level. It's all there. It's where you kind of want it. And we have to put this bolt right here in the middle, so we have plenty of adjustment back and forth just in case we screw up. That's just one of the things we have to do. As you can see, if it goes here onto the chassis, right there, I can't really do anything because of the, you know, of the height of the other stuff, but put it right there and make sure it's that height. We can weld it in. If we need to adjust it, we can adjust it, but that's kind of the deal. What I want to make it is right there. So I'm going to have to trim this stuff down a little bit, grind that down, and cut off over here. So when this is on, I can cut notches and bend it all back around to make a full mount. Pretty much just like the factory did it, you know, but it's not. And then we can build off of the bottom to run a loop around to connect the top and bottom of the tunnel, you know. That's what my plan is. Whether or not it's going to work out, don't know, but hey, let's give it a shot, you know. What's a couple grinding discs. There we go. Oh my God, that is so close. That is good to friggin' tack. And that wasn't bad. I was expecting a heck of a lot worse. And it fits right there. Yeah, so I'm just going to make the other one not exactly the same, but in the same context, so it'll actually take me less time. And it actually fits up inside. Where I'm just going to trim it a little bit up there, trim it a little bit here, but I'm going to get the other side in first, and then we'll final fit everything. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it, actually. And then we can build off of this like a loop structure. That way, just in case anything comes apart, give us a little bit of added protection. So let me go cut the other one. That's pretty much in the equal side. There, that's in the middle. I have to recheck the drive shaft after I did all this because it might have gone out. That's one of the problems with mucking about with this, but initially this is what we're gonna have, but we still have to trim it and then weld it and plate it. That way it'll all square together, because as soon as I can pull this drive shaft out, and once I get this stuff all in, there's a couple places up there I can just need to trim down a little bit and it'll go further up, no problem. Same thing with this, just a couple of pieces, I have to get the grinder, not the cutter out, because I can grind down a little bit in just increments and get the drive shaft set up. So let me do that. I'll clean some of this stuff off so we can tack weld it and we can get this drive shaft all set up so we can pull the drivetrain and do the transmission tunnel. Now if these bolts are tight, it's right in the middle. Now I gotta make sure the drive shaft is fully aligned. Then mark the stuff I need to grind off on there and do it up. Mounts up against the body right here. I actually adjusted it out so this is exactly straight and level. You have to remember, we're making it fit to something that's not supposed to be there, so this is the best we can. We still have a little bit of adjustment, go a little bit down, not really up, because we're going to weld the mounts in. But let me grab the welder. I'm going to weld a good tack in there, there. I'm going to brace these things with some weld so they don't move. Then we're going to pull the drive shaft out. Well, this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted the drive shaft to be staying there straight with this bolted in. And the only time that comes out, you pull down the center bearing just like a stock one. So let me pull the center bearing, get this thing out of here, and on to the next job. Now that we have these mounts tacked in, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to weld a bead around here, bead there, and I'll probably put some metal up in here, but I also want to do this. I'm going to take a die grinder and cut into here and fill this line out and bring this transmission tunnel in, grind this so I can butt weld it together. I might be putting a strip right here and weld on both sides, but I'm not sure just yet. But I want to start in the middle. That way I can get everything pulled in. I gotta go up to the top of the, put a ladder up there so I can put a piece of wood and push this all the way there. But I need to cut it first to give it room to breathe. So let me first grab the grinder. I'm going to grind this down, give me some metal. Then I'm going to take a whiz wheel and just cut straight in. And that should work. This right here is my starting point. This is the closest from the original to the original. This is where I'm going to start, and this is how it's going to be slow. I'm going to go here and then take a ladder, go up, push this in, slowly move all the way forward, because I want to kind of keep this because the seat bases are from the 5+5. And then I'm going to pound this all in. And this is a very, very slow job, but this is something you're going to have to do. Just embrace the suck and keep on going. So let me go grab the welder. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to go up, push this in, grind, push this in, grind, blah, blah, blah. So I'll try and fast forward through, not fast forward, but you know, time cut as much as I can, but it's gonna take me all day. I think, I'm not sure. Well, let's just get going, you know? Yeah, if it sucks, it sucks. Doesn't matter. That's flush. It definitely is going to need a plate right here or on the inside. I'm not really sure where I'm going to do it, but this is stable. I'm going to get the other side, then we're going to pull the engine transmission and start working on the rest of the tunnel. Four more bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thing will drop out. Oh, I like it when I build them like this. Here we have the 4000 transmission tunnel. Here we have the Coupe GT top of the transmission tunnel. As you can see, I think I hit it with the gearbox housing. I'm not sure. I could have. But it doesn't beside the point. What it is that we need to bring this section right here in line with here, because it's basically this front portion of the bell housing or the front part of the transmission tunnel is pretty much equal here. It just goes downward more for the two-wheel drive version as it appears. At least it does in the 5+5, and I assume the Coupe GT and the 4000 front-wheel drive cars are exactly the same. What are we going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is just going to cut this stiffening plate out. And what I want is, you know, on just enough sheet metal so I can actually take a hammer, pound it up into, and conform to the 4000 Quattro tunnel. Whether or not I'm going to have to come down here, grind this stuff off, and push it in, I don't really know. I might have to, but I got to weld this mount before I do this. I gotta weld this mount so it stays stationary so the transmission will bolt right back up into it. And then I can clean up all these mounts and clean up everything and make it look all right. But first, we have to get the chassis tied in to the transmission tunnel so we can pull the mounts off so we can install the doors. You know, one step at a time. So let's go grab, I'm gonna go grab the cutter and we'll do that. Now that we have this cut, I have to grind this off, use a hammer, push this up into, I can put, if I put a bead this much across, I don't need the jig anymore. Pull it off, put the doors on, we start fitting in everything. So let me grab the grinder, I'll clean this all up, I'm gonna clean this up. As you can see, I missed this, I gotta cut that off first so I can get it up flush. I think we're all good. So let me go grab that. Here we have, see, it's all stitched in. Next thing, we're going to drop it down, put it on the dolly, bring it in, and let's start fitting the rear quarters and the doors in the front and then all this other stuff. Doors are snug. What I gotta do is I'll fit them right off camera, and then we'll come back and I'm gonna be putting on these rear quarters. That way we can get the bumper on and get the bumper supports on so we can put this thing on the rotisserie. I can't wait till all this shit that friggin' dumps out of this thing when I spin it over, just like the 914. That's sitting on there, it's on the lip. We have to have, suck more in, but let me show you how I'm gonna final fit and how the doors line up. Here we are at the door. This is the door that I aligned up. And I should have filmed it because it was a pain in the butt. I thought this thing was hit because this line right here and this line right here, this line was up here. It's probably almost 3/8 of an inch, 10, 12 millimeters further up. And I'm sitting there going, well, what is it to compensate for this, compensate for that? I have no idea. So I'm looking at it going, well, I got to bring it down. So I tried shimming the front. Didn't work. So I tried moving the post up and down to draw the door down just to see if that was the case, you know, for the locking mechanism. That wasn't it. You move them all around. It didn't change it enough. And it made it actually, there made resistance inside the door, so you know it's going to wear out. Well, then I said the only way to do it is to go there. I basically made slotted the holes that are designed for the door to bolt on there. I slotted them up, I moved it down, I clamped them in, and then it became absolutely straight. And I reset the door latch mechanism. Works great, you know, comes out, boom, there. And it lines perfectly up. And when you put it on, the door doesn't shift up or down. It goes on straight, easy, no problem. The top is all lined up, everything's lined up. I thought it was just this door. I went over and did the other one. Same exact thing. I had to slot the doors in order to bring them down to make all the lines work. Well, there you go. You know, it probably won't happen on your car, but this is just what happened on mine. I'll show you the slots after I pull the doors because I don't want to do it again because it's a pain in the butt. But let's get right on to doing that because this line right here is what I needed straight. This line and this line, this is the main line that I'm going to use, and this line down here is what I'm going to use. But this line is going to be for the flare of the fender. And I'm going to work from the rear of the light forward and make this thing absolutely square. Now I also want to take up all the slack in the panel. I don't want to use screws because sometimes when you put a screw in there and the diameter is bigger than the pop rivet, if you put the screw in there and pull it back out, when you put the pop rivet out, it doesn't hit the sides. And I'm trying to prevent that. Generally, I mean, if you can use screws, fine, and it works out, hey, that's wonderful. But I'm just going to use a technique my brother taught me about. He was an aircraft mechanic for years. And the way they used to put aluminum, you know, build aluminum patch panels on airplanes, and this is what they used. They use this. This is called a Clico. This is, what this does is simulates a rivet. You put it like this, goes like that, it fits in. Oh, see, that one's the screw. There, there. And it basically replicates a rivet. What it's going to do is lay this panel absolutely flat all the way down so all the slack is taken up. So when I do any type of welding down here, in order to match this panel with this panel, that way all the slack is taken up and it's just one, you know, this way I can do it as a final fitment. This is it. This is what you're going to do. You know, this is for the end of it. And I'm probably going to have to weld off and try and work them there, because if you put a lot of filler in here, you're going to be done. It's just going to look like shit. And it's going to crack, and people are going to show. People are going to see it. So I got to first go to the back. I'm going to set the height in the back, and I'm going to run the line down and run it to here. Then I'm going to drill all the holes, drill that squared, do it on the other side, do the same exact thing, make sure everything is tight to the car, like this. Everything is done. That's when we're going to put the bumper in there and weld the support. So let's go do that right now. These Clecos are awesome. I should have bought them a long time ago. I initially set up this portion right here, the least amount of movement back and forth. Now, this line right here is set up to right here to right here. Same thing down here. This line to this line to this line. Here it is, right there. That is the ruler. Same thing over here. That is the ruler right there. It goes right to this point. So I have to go set the back, bring it forward. This will take up any and all extra excess material forward, and that will give me an idea of what the filler plate I need to weld in here. Let's go to the back. That's pretty good. Well, the sight line looks pretty good all the way down. Runs the whole thing and it's flat. Let me grab my drill, start putting in the clecos. Hopefully this will stay exactly the way it is. It was sick if it didn't. And then all my stuff will be for naught. So let me go grab the drill. I'll start putting in all the clecos and then we can start finishing the bumper. Actually, I'll do the other side, then finish the bumper. This side's on. As you can see right here, this is a little bit down from this, but it's more along the lines of where the door is. This was damaged and I pushed back out. This right here is right on the money. That's what I'm going with. Let's get the bumper support welded in, or put the bumper on so we can get the bumper support welded in. Can't even talk. So now the final fitment of this cross brace. Now we got to tap everything down in here, weld it all into here. Probably have to add a little bit of metal over here, but it's not going to be that bad. This is what happens when this is curved. That bumper brace is flat, so it's not going to fit perfectly. But if I can just tap this down to where I'm not going to hit these holes, that'll work out fine. This thing I can just conform all the way around in here. This thing right here. I'll probably start right here because it's the closest. Then the other side's a little bit further away. Yeah, it is what it is. So let me just tap this in and we'll get this thing ready for 2 or 3 no time soon. Thing to do, we'll wrap up the episode. Don't be afraid to cut your old tacks off if this line and this panel is not flush. Remember, I have a strip underneath here. I'm trying to use the welder to bore down underneath here to weld that tack strip and everything else in between. It's for strength issue at this point. But I had to cut this tack off to bring it back up level, and it's going okay. You know, it's still kind of wavy, but you know, we're gonna see what happens. There she is. The top is welded. Good? Hillbilly-ish. All right, let's conclude up this episode. Let me get out of here. All right. That's my new welding helmet my mother got me. My birthday. Oh, rat fink, gotta love it. You know, I loved all those 1950s hot rod guys. You know, they built show cars with nothing. You know, Barris and all those guys. You know, I mean, that's what they did. And this is kind of the same thing. I'm building with the parts that I have lying around out of junk cars. And hopefully this will bring a smile to someone's face after I get it all done. If I take it out and say, oh, isn't that cool? You know, it's like, great. You know, I took a bunch of old rusty hunks of shit and put them together. You know? Other than that, what do we got? Well, we got the transmission tunnel, and the quarters and the doors fitted. This thing welded so it won't collapse, hopefully, when we put it on the rotisserie, so it's ready to go on the rotisserie. The 914, the video I took, it's not done, so I went out and I dragged the rotisserie from out back, which I didn't want to do. And I cut it up and I made it look just like that one, because my first rotisserie that I built was not the greatest design. It took up too much room, and that rotisserie works so well, I want to do it the same way. So I already built that. It's all ready to go on. Give me a couple days, I'm going to put that on there and start filming, welding up all the stuff underneath. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I have a new welder because my Lincoln died. And I wasn't sure about it, but now that I've gone through a lot of wire, a lot of, you know, this is the reason, another reason why I really wanted to weld the top, because I wanted to get more practice with that welder. It seemed to be working really well. Really well. It's still, you know, the jury's still out on it, but, you know, whatever. Well, getting back to this, thank you very much for showing up. Remember, you can do it. I am nothing special. I'm just a hillbilly out here in New Hampshire. You know, that's all. I'm just trying to recycle as much junk as I can. So, hey, thank you very much, and see you next time. All right, bye now.